Hello everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. It's June 2020. We're just really recovering from the COVID pandemic finally, and also just recovering from a large social injustice we had with George Floyd killing. And our stock market economy is definitely highly volatile, so these are definitely crazy but interesting times as well. Today I want to discuss with you guys a topic that I had a few months ago, but I didn't have a chance to make the video, and now with recent events I feel like it's even more necessary to kind of make this video. And that specifically, the topic is labeling and labeling of people. I feel, why do we label? Well, we label to define our world, right? So it helps us define our objects and things and so on and so forth in our world, but we also use it to define the people. And by labeling people, we are actually doing an injustice to them individually, because you are not just your label, right? Every person is a unique individual who is a sum of all the events and experiences and their genetics, etc. They make up that one person. So anytime you put a label on them that isn't their name, that applies just to them, you're really doing them an injustice. So I feel as a society we need to kind of really take a step back and look at labeling as an ideal or an idea, and actually decide how we can really revise or reduce the usage of these labels, especially when I feel they're not good for society as a whole, right? Because it really simplifies people and allows us to apply biases and prejudices to these groups as soon as we put them in this group of their label that we might be applying to them. Not all labels are bad, right? So obviously you can be labeled from anything from being smart to being a racist, to being a Democrat, to being kind, to being evil. These are all labels, right? And really they're kind of snapshots and they're generalizations, which for every person you can argue that throughout their lifetime, almost every label that exists could be applied to them, right? Barring the physical characteristics that define them. But I feel that really where society is kind of messed up is our definitions and our use of these labels. So a lot of times these labels, these definitions, they've got power, right? Language has power. So these labels that we're applying to these people, they instill these values, and they're passed down through generations to young people and so forth, and they perpetuate these ideas, and they really do an injustice to the people that they're applied to. I don't feel anyone is defined by any label. The only time labeling is really necessary, you can argue, is when you're literally defining a specific person and you're giving physical characteristics so that they can be picked out of a crowd or what have you, right? Short, tall, the color of their skin, etc. These are obviously labels in a circumstance that we would need to identify people. But otherwise, all the rest of our labels, we really just are dividing and segmenting people into groups and categories, and almost any label you apply, you can say whether you are or you're not in that group, right? And anytime that we've got people in groups and they're in groups that we aren't a part of as an individual, then I feel maybe there is a tendency for us to not apply, the fair and just evaluation and judgment on them just because they're not in our group. Like political parties, I'll take that for example, right? We have the Democrats and the Republicans. Just for the record, I'm actually an independent, but because I believe in ideas from both parties. But whenever we've got this whole you pick a side, you're either a Democrat or you're Republican. Now all of a sudden, it's a us versus them mentality, and we're not looking at people as an individual with their own set of ideas and their perspectives and their point of views and their experiences. We've automatically lumped them into a category, and in that category we might or might not have a favorable disposition on. So I really feel that labeling, we need to reduce its use in society We need to speak, specifically more on individuals and ideas and specific circumstances and facts, and get away from just applying these generalizations and these labels and defining people. I know this is going to be like a hard switch for society as a whole to make. We're tribal by nature and communal and etc. But I really feel that as soon as we start breaking up people and segregating people into these different groups and labels, that we really do an injustice to our overall cohesiveness as a society, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we the people, right? We're all people, we're all humans, we're all born into different circumstances, we're all raised under different environments and different experiences, and we're all unique individuals. So we really need to treat each person out there as a unique individual and not apply these labels that are often can be negative or misleading or misrepresenting the people that we're applying them to. So I really want people to make an effort individually to try to do that, and then and try to instill that in people that because I really feel it's beneficial to society as a whole. I think we do need to possibly redefine a lot of things, right? It's like language is always changing and definitions are always changing, and we've got a lot of these labels that we're morphing over time. But a lot of times when we have these definitions that we apply to people, they don't always result in positive definitions, right? I'd say the majority of definitions, can be negative. There's good and kind and sweet and loving and all these labels that are good and fine, but there's also a lot of negative labels like fat and ugly and stupid and so on and so forth. And really, when you apply these labels to people, you actually have an impact on their life. If somebody grows up their whole life hearing this label, it really becomes a core characteristic for them. They actually see themselves that way, and that's not right. You aren't a label. You aren't defined by any one particular group or any one particular word by any sense of the meaning. And I'd argue that everybody is way more complex than hundreds or thousands of labels. So that's why labels are just a bad idea in general. I think that's about all I wanted to cover in this topic regarding labeling. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you all have a great day, and take care.